Hi, welcome to this video. Today's topic I want to talk about how is it possible to find girlfriend if you live out of your car or live in a van. So, is it possible for me to ask a coworker on a date if I live in my car or live out of my car or sleep in my car or live in a van, right? I mean, if I just have all my belongings to in my van and then just sleep anywhere around the city around town, but I have my work, my workplace. Of course, I'm not like unemployed or not precisely homeless, which is a different topic. People say, some people think that being living out of your van or car, not necessarily you're homeless, which is a different definition. There's other connotation to that. But let's talk about specific issue or case of if I have my job, right? I work 40 hours a week, but I'm not able to really pay my apartment. So uh, I'm not living, I'm just saving to maybe perhaps just pay for my first house. I mean, my 30s or early 30s or even 40s. Some millions of people are going through this question: how to buy your first house. How, not so if you're not even in a capable of renting, pay a lease, make a deposit of a two thousand or $3,000 apartment, which is very much a medium price. That's the average price in most cities in the United States. I mean, how are you gonna pay a deposit 3,000 plus 3,000? The first month, and some people ask 3,000 and 3 months, like the months you're moving into an apartment, the first month deposit. I don't know, one more month. I mean, 3 months. Some landlord just ask for 1 month deposit and another 1 month in advance for the first month of living in an apartment. So that's you sign a lease or 6 months or 12 months. But the issue here is if you're not able to do that, of course, I'm saving, saving for an apartment or either for up to the down payment for your first house. Now, but getting to the issue of living sleeping in my car, um, well, it's a taboo, right? It's an issue that for us, right? If you're asking, let's go to the beginning of this. I mean, before asking a coworker on a date, because that's what I'm gonna get into. But how about working on that company? Let me put my own case. I was working at a chocolate company, chocolate, packaging company and product. There was the whole thing there, production and packaging and delivering those to different stores. I mean, very well-known stores. So it was doing okay. But what if, my address? Of course, in a employment form, you fill it out, and when there's the address, physical address, which is required, you can, be hired if you just don't have a place where you live, a physical place where you live. You can't just put your address as your car or your van or RV is not a physical address really. I mean, it's not because you're moving around. You can be 2 days in one place, 3 days in a different location. So is that an address? Most likely you're not gonna get that job. Most likely, once you go to the interview, somebody else is gonna get it. I mean, because how you gonna, it's even if you have a PO box number or anything that that you may receive your email address or mailing address, they're not really if it's of course there's a little space that says mailing address meaning that you may have like a relative who has a house, a physical place where they can be directed to my mailing address. But the physical address is there, that's where you live. They may ask you, do you live here, right? Your interview right? The interviewer can ask you the company you are aspiring. I mean, what if you're aspiring for a medium like a management job? Can you can you tell the interviewer that you live out of your car? I mean, you sleep in the car. That's not that's a red flag, basically, right? But if you went through the whole filter and you just landed up at a factory job, a low paying job, of course you can manage to maybe perhaps eventually perhaps just having a physical address with somebody else and explain that you're just staying, whatever, right? Staying sleeping on the couch or whatever. That's your aunt, but that's your physical address. You may get away with it. But then, what if later they find out that you sleep on your car? I mean, your car after 2 3 months. Remember, you have a period of 2 3 months probation on that particular job that you desperately need in the first place. I mean, you're in a situation. I'm in a situation in which definitely. I mean, you really have wanna portray yourself as somebody they can rely on, somebody who's serious about, somebody who's formal, somebody who lives so-called a normal life, quote unquote, which is, is debatable. Of course, you can debate all day about what's a normal life. I mean, normal person asking, for employment. I mean, want to be employed. I mean, finding a work. So let's say that what's if they find out later that, and they will. I mean, they could maybe sometimes maybe not. But what if right they find out? So there is an issue of trust now, right? That maybe they want to find out that you didn't mention that, was that important to mention. Well, I would say yes, why not, right? You can explain. I mean, but you have to explain before you have been hired for that particular job. You went to training, they invested on you, on me, like they invested on me on this chocolate factory. But then, I mean, if then you go, even if you work, performance. I mean, your production is good, but socially speaking, I mean, because there's a social thing going on. You spend 9 10 hours with people as co-workers, right? Like in my case, there were like at least I would say around 70, 60 or 70 people who are permanently, employed in the place. But then they hire, of course, as temporary temps, so they're called temps for a few months with different people. But then you become, that's your life now. I mean, your life meaning that workplace becomes you. I mean, you're very much absorbed. That's your life. I mean, once you finish 10 hours shift, whatever decade it might be, this is a chocolate factory. Totally exhausted. I mean, there's almost no life. You just go out. You just clock out 6 7 and 7 o'clock at night and get ready for the next day. If there is a chance, you do laundry. I mean, do the if you are single. And I'm talking about single person, which I was, at that moment. But other people who live in their car, who sleep in their car. I mean, think about that. I mean, then there is a break time, coffee break 9:30, and then well, other some workers gather there, female workers, young, maybe some of them um, single, and not without no attachment to. They don't have boyfriends either, and maybe they people meet at their job place. Many people do and get married and find a good girlfriend and find boyfriends. Girls, women too. They find boyfriends and girlfriends. I mean, people find that's it. See, and the job place, your workplace, is one of the top places where people find their mate. That's proven. That's more than 60% of people finding at their work. At work, of course, some people find that significant at church, in school, but work. I mean, that some people say, "Oh, you slave, you're a slave to this work, working 60, 70 hours a week, where nowhere to go." Not everything is totally bad. Yes, I mean, in the modern times, in the in modern society, I mean, that's the case might be. I mean, with inflation going up every day, right? Every day, cost of living is so high. I mean, basically, you're absorbed. Anytime, the supervisor asks you for extra time, extra, if you want to stay overtime, and sometimes they make you stay overtime because the company's priority is to get that production out and send it to, there's a huge, it's a brutal competition for the, in this chocolate factory I was working. It was a brutal competition. You can be, allowed for the next day, especially if you have perishable, like a chocolate. It can be melted. I mean, there are so many ways, so many types of packaging that has to be done and deliver overnight. So there was, basically, forcing in a way. I mean, by mandate, you have to stay or risk your job, or basically they will hire somebody else who is more, willing to do that extra time for to make the, the factory, the, moving. I mean, the business, so that doesn't go out of business. But now you're talking about the break room, the 9:30 coffee time, or you have 10 minutes break, which is very quick. But lunchtime, in my case, I have half hour lunch, but there's always to social, to have a social life at work, even with half-hour lunch or 15 or 10 minutes coffee break, which I remember, yeah, it was like a 10-minute break, but a few minutes more or less, who cares, right? But then um, as co-workers, you will call, in my case, I was, in quality control. I was in different section, but sometimes I was, in a packaging section. Sometimes I was in the production. Sometimes in the mixing area. I mean, in different areas, of course. But and you meet people. I mean, there was female, there were male guys. Boys and girls. I mean, sometimes work together, work in the same area, and you start talking and saying. But the question might come up. Saying what. So tell me what the area, I mean, people ask, right? I mean, you work, I mean, they see, the girl sees you make a living, right? They see you as a good worker, and that's a positive thing that they see you, that you have a vision, you have goals in life, that you are in a way, I am not that ambitious, that much, I've never been, but people, girls, some female wants you to be ambitious about having, to step on the corporate ladder. I mean, if you had promotions and things like that, which in my case it happened a little bit because I was promoted to the quality control area. But anyway, then the question may ask, where do you live? I mean, well, I live. What if I say to the girl, I sleep in my car? I mean, I live out of my car, my van. I mean, because it's, oh, how come? And what if she lives in an apartment? Even when she's sharing apartment because so expensive. You're not gonna, with minimum wage, even making 15, 16, 20, even $20 an hour in cities like New York, Houston, Miami, LA. I mean, forget about it. You can make, it's not able. You're not able to pay a $2,000 apartment, one bedroom apartment, even 2,500 for some one bedroom apartment. So once the girl starts with the issue of that you live in a car, then the girl might think that you are crazy. I mean, you are in a way a little bit crazy in a way that, oh well, I mean, how come, right? Well, I can telling the truth, be honest. I can't, that you can't pay my apartment, so I'm just saving to, that could be. And some girls, oh, okay, well, asking her out. I mean, for coffee or something, having a date, on a date, she may think twice about saying, "Well, I don't know about this guy. He's living on his car. I mean, for how long? I mean, how long this has been going on? What were the issue? I mean, suddenly the focus of the conversation between you two, it becomes that issue of of living on your car, because typically people live, other people who lives in their car don't work. Many people don't work, they're homeless. That's the only thing they have. I mean, that their car or the belongings there, the dog, they can't, they don't. And some, of course, elderly population, many of them, many thousands and thousands. Of course, they are the social security check is not enough. They're just making $700, $800, typical social security check. Are they going to be able to pay, the apartment? No, they can't. Many of them are lonely. They are people who widow. They didn't inherit that much of money. I mean, they were out of luck, basically. Out of luck meaning, um, even some issues of addiction, which is different. I don't want to get into that, but this is about socially. I mean, can you be accepted living out in, sleeping? I mean, being a van lifer, meaning that you live in a van, struggling in life. I mean, socially is that accepted? Well, uh, well, now what if the girl is the one living in out of his van, her van, right? If the girl is different, and that's the next step. That's the next issue here. Is that more acceptable? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let's be clear. For the boy, for the guy, it's not acceptable socially that you live out of a van, unless you want to be called loser. I mean, technically, I mean, right away, bam, clicks in that you are a loser. I mean, how come? I mean, and if you live out of your mom's basement, which is even sometimes even worse, because you're kind of dependent on your mom. You're still mama's boy. I mean, you don't want to be called mama's boy either, right? If you want to go on a date and you live, that's under your mother's umbrella, that's not a good thing either. If you try to land good person, good lady, good young lady, good wife in the future, because you're gonna be, you wanna project yourself as being independent, being reliable, being a man, being a protector, being the head of the household. That's the future that 99% of girls are looking for, that being that kind of a real that she can rely on, she can lean on your shoulder to be able to to walk together in life to the rest of if marrying for the rest of your lives, why not, right? But the second issue is that, I mean, if the what if the girl is the one who is living Arhaba, and that she's the one working, right? She's working, she's employed also, she's working, I mean, she's traveling too, she's paying student loans. She can tell you, well, oh, what happens that I pay my student loans, I'm still struggling in life, meaning out of college with a bachelor's degree. Many people living there, they have bachelor's degree, guys. Thousands of them, thousands of boys and girls, guys and girls, you know, can find that job. Technical tech job. That is Oracle. This huge company just fired like 50,000, 15,000 people just recently, just a couple of days ago. Now this is the month of August. I mean, things are not looking good. Not looking in many situations. Many, not just in the U.S., Canada. I mean, other parts of the world too. I mean, AI is taking over, so things are evolving as we speak, guys. So, but socially, this is affecting our social values too. The value of principles. Even if let's say that the girl is the one living her van, right? That's, well, guys might think that, well, this girl is not like formal. This guy is like a this girl is like a, well, she lives there. I mean, she might anybody might come, and who knows what else she's doing. I mean, so we might think, but some guys think that if the girl is not, even in her 20s, right, that it's old enough to be, her own, own apartment, right? But if she's living out on the street, I mean, basically on the van, and that she's made too liberal, like too, that could be the issue, prejudging the girl, that say, oh, man, this too liberal, this girl, she can end up, who knows, the disco, the bar, working at night, and then you might think, oh, so many things. If it's the guy, right? Of course, you might think that, well, this guy, the same thing basically. But if it's the girl, is in a way, uh, because the girl needs, if she's meeting one new guy to, on a date or something, or find that significant other. Well, they both now, either they both live in a single van and single place, right? Once they have married, of course, they get married, or find, join forces. I mean, and save together. Nothing wrong with that, right? It seems okay, right? So there's a different take, different way of viewing this. It depends who you ask, right? But for the guy, it's different. It, you're not gonna call the girl a loser just because she's living out of the van, right? And struggling and working. You Most people are gonna praise this. Oh, you're brave. I mean, you're living in your van, and so you're struggling in life. That's for the girl, right? But for the guy, would be, oh, you're a loser, right? Suddenly, it's a double standard view of how to view things in life, right? For the guy, is a loser if you live in a van and working. I mean, you're struggling working. I mean, to be able to do something in the future to set your goals. But if it's the girl, they will say, well, this girl is brave enough to, because the girl may get a knock on the door, right, by the police, by other people, because some, you know, um, people, that men, many men will, may think that, oh, that girl, look at, but there are always good and bad people on the street, right? They'll come knocking the door, try to do something harm, because they may think that this girl living in the van is, she can't defend herself, right? So she can be protected, I mean, she's all living alone in the van. Some people may think that, but if it's the guy, it was just different take, right? But the thing is that we're gonna think that the girl's brave enough, she's very courageous and living in a van and struggling, but we're not gonna tell, nobody's gonna say that she's a loser, right? She's a loser. But for the guy, I mean, that's you hitting the pride of the guy. I mean, hitting the pride, I mean, attacking basically the manhood of a man, that's saying, oh, this guy a loser. I mean, and that, that goes into self-esteem. Now, the guy's self-esteem, meaning that how things are going to develop. So now if you are shy before asking a girl for a date, once oh, this is the guy who lives out of his car, but he has a car, he has a workplace, he's getting a paycheck weekly on a weekly basis, but still, he's not able to do anything in life. So that's a definition of a loser, right? For the guy. So that stigma, it just keeps building up and brings you down, brings you even, instead of improving you, even though you're saving, that makes you even shy. I mean, to have that, relationship with meeting that girl, not just at the workplace. I just mentioned the workplace where you meet a coworker, a female coworker, for the boy, right? But it could be socially anywhere, in a social gathering, family gathering, who knows? I mean, church, anything. Even at church, believe it or not, people are prejudiced. Church, I've been to different, I've visited different churches, and people have prejudice. People, oh, don't think that everybody is like, even with the Bible teaching, about relationships. There is some teaching about that too. But there are prejudices at church too. Don't think it's so different. I mean, people are just religious, which is a different issue, right? But people are just religious. Sometimes you find the best people you meet is out of church. Look what I'm saying here. Sometimes the best people you meet, the most quality people, is outside the church. There are lots of hypocrisy in church, which I'm talking about in some other video, but there's lots of hypocrisy in church. So some people go to church just to to have an appearance, just to appear, pretending to be something that they are not. But it's a different issue, I said. So guys, uh, socially speaking, yes, it's possible. I'm not saying it's totally impossible to find that. But what's going to be the next step? I mean, if you've fallen, out of society, right? Uh, First having your house, or you lost your house. Now you're in a small apartment. Then you go and keep going down. Now you're living out of your car. Making minimum wage. You don't have not even have a social security check. You can't even qualify yet for a pension, anything in life, right, basically. So what's going to be the next step if the life is is just going? I mean, time is going by around you. I mean, 2 years later, living off your car, you can even find a girl, not even a coworker who is struggling there with you. I mean, you see every day because of the stigma, the prejudice of like the people, that people, society thinks that if you live in a van and sleep in your car, is that totally that's it, that you are homeless, which you are not, right? Because you have, your situation is different than somebody who has a mental illness issues and different other issues, right? Addiction issues and other things that, which is the most of the homeless population, are struggling with. But then, what's going to be next? Well, some people are doing it, are going and living, work. I mean, overseas, moving out of the country, which is, I'm not saying do that. All I'm saying that people are doing it, moving out of the country and find places like Central America, Latin America, Mexico, Philippines, so, even Vietnam. Some people get teaching jobs, teaching. Believe it or not, finding a job out overseas. Some people are getting English teaching job, which is very much uh, very there are plenty of teaching jobs, which I think I had one other video talking about teaching job in Vietnam and in Cambodia and other, which I'm gonna update a little bit more again, on that video for whoever is interested in learning more. But guys, so that's, I wanted to just to tackle the issue today of finding, if you if in the case, if you live out of your car, or you're living as uh, out of your van, that the stigma of being homeless or not homeless, but that's what the prejudice comes to, right? And how hard it is to find a female, a significant other girlfriend. Uh, in most cases, and that's the thing, in most cases, it's hard. It's so hard. It's not impossible to find it, but it's, if you, if you really, try, I mean, I think the best case scenario is to be honest upfront on your job, workplace, and with that girlfriend that you meet. Two things: with your workplace and your girlfriend. Just tell the truth, whatever it is. Just be honest about it, and then move on. And that will give you freedom to, the freedom not to, have hiding something. It's not good to hide things like that. Thanks, guys, for listening, for visit this video. And if you came this far, thank you, and please subscribe if you haven't. And see you in the next video. Take care, guys.